early. So I want to welcome every one of you to this session today. We've called it Human Conversations, and that title was obviously on purpose so that we know that we are to have open conversations today and unscripted conversations that are to be more human, where we connect more as human beings. So my name, for those of you that may not know me, my name is Luis Moreno. I'm originally from Latin America, and I'm based right now in the U.S. I have three great friends I have many friends that are joining me today, all of you, but I have three special guests that are going to be the leading voices for today's conversation. And I love to read, I'm going to go ahead and read their bios in a minute. But before I do that, I love to hear if you guys can go on the chat box and then type what city and country are you joining from and what time it is for you. So, I mean, obviously, even if you are in the US, what city of the US are you in and what time it is for you? And then for those folks that are joining us, we have folks here that are joining us from Europe. North America, South America, Europe, we have Africa and Asia so far. So just say, kind of where you are joining from. I see Scotland. So Nadesh is joining us. So Nasneen from India, Mumbai, Kuala Lumpur. It's 7 p.m. in India. We have Tucson, Arizona, 6:30 a.m. Wow, for ours. Very nice. Gotta be appreciative of that, right? Okay, Minneapolis. So we have Megan that is joining us from Minneapolis in the US, and that's 7:30, same time as me. Kay from Edina in Minnesota. We have more folks from South Carolina, Greenville, and Tina joining us from Minneapolis. We have Tom is in Elmhurst, Illinois, near Chicago. We have Darcy from Stillwater, Minnesota. 7:30, we have Shahid joining us from London, Alicia from Milan, Italy. Joel is from St. Paul, Minnesota. Great, so wonderful. So we have a bunch of folks joining us here from the different parts of the world. So I'm gonna go ahead and read then the bios for our guests today. So if you remember the banner, we had 4 folks in there, 4 faces. So I'm gonna go from left to right in case that you still have the banner somewhere. But the first person on the left was Nabil, my friend Nabil. And Nabil is the founder and CEO of Artificial Intelligence for Emotional Intelligence. AI for EI is an all-in-one software that combines the power of machine learning, automation, and process management that enables executive coaches, life coaches, and mentors to wear the coaching hat with confidence and scale their business in a highly competitive and fast-growing industry. Nabil has led teams of entrepreneurs, health providers, meta coaches to work together with corporations and schools to establish solid structures and processes to build teams of leaders and co-workers with high emotional intelligence. He has helped to certify educators to achieve organizational goals in providing students with the education they deserve to prepare them for their rapid and challenging future. Nabil has worked in Morocco, Italy, the UK, United Arab Emirates, and the USA, and he currently lives in South Carolina. So welcome, Nabil. Thank you for making the time to be with us today. Nabil should be there at the top of your screen. And then I'm gonna introduce next Tarja Siltala. Tarja has a bachelor's degree in social science and a master's in business administration. She's a registered family therapist and a psychotherapist. She has her own practice where she does compassion coaching and workshops related to work well-being services. Her mission is to increase compassion in the world and in the workplace. She is currently studying to become a compassion cultivation training teacher, and she's also starting applied compassion training at Stanford University. And Tarja is joining us from Finland. And then last but not least, my friend Art Jones is a veteran technology sales executive delivering high-value consulting and coaching for business and business pros. Early in Art's career at Xerox, he was a member of the Advanced Systems Group, where he was responsible for technologies developed at the Palo Alto Research Center. His career spans over 3 decades, where he has worked for Fortune 500, Forbes 2000, startup, and solopreneur. Today, he's a chief story architect at The Art of Standing Out, the art of inbound marketing. He's based in Tucson, Arizona, where he enjoys incredible desert sunsets, trips to Sedona and the Grand Canyon. So Not About Life, if you can get it. We're going to meet Vanessa Carneiro. So we have these are great folks that we have with us here today. And they really have a lot of experience in human centricity for these topics. I know we have other folks on the call today that have a lot of experience in, human-centered leadership and emotional intelligence. And so basically what we would like to do today, we have about an hour and a half, and, we will have somewhere between 40 and 50 people today. And we have an opportunity to check in and check, how are you guys doing? We're living through very challenging times. I think that the year 2020, brought some unexpected things, a lot of surprises, thrown at us. And I think that, through our, we navigated through a lot of obstacles. And I think that we would like the opportunity today to talk about, what did we learn from 2020? What are we seeing out there? Any lessons, anything that you'd like to share. And more important than all, this is an opportunity for us all to connect, to create new connections. So on that note, I would like for you guys to go into your LinkedIn, open a new window, open LinkedIn, when you go to your profile, right? So go to your profile on LinkedIn and then copy your profile web address, and then go ahead and paste it here on, if you are okay. So for all of you that are on LinkedIn, if you are okay with connecting with others on this call, and overall everybody's pretty safe here on this call, and go ahead and connect with others on the call. And the easiest way for people to connect with you is go ahead, copy your LinkedIn profile web address and paste it just like you see people that are doing it here. So go ahead and you can click on those LinkedIn profiles and go ahead and connect. So with that, I like to, we're going to go ahead and have an opening round of greetings. So I'd like to invite my first guest, Nabil Boussaba, to just greet the room here, everyone, and then feel free to share some thoughts on how we're doing.
Hi, Luis, and thank you for having me here today. It's great to be with everybody, and I look forward to learning from everyone. Actually, I'm sure it's going to be a learning experience. We have to share, what we know, share our knowledge, our emotional intelligence experience, and help each other achieve what we're aiming to achieve.
Absolutely, help each other. I like that. Thank you for that greeting. Tarja, want to greet the folks before we get started here with our session?
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to see you all here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation, and looking forward also to collaborate. And yeah, my passion is to bring more compassion. So this is it. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I like the, you brought up the word collaboration. So multiple people in the call today are folks that are involved in great initiatives. And so, feel free to reach out to folks and engage in, hopefully from this call, we have more people collaborating with each other. And then last but not least, my friend Art, you want to have some opening words here before we start the session, Art?
Well, thanks for having me as part of this panel, Luis. I know our conversations have always been full of insightful and thoughtful commentary about the importance of empathy and emotional intelligence. And when you said you were gathering, a few 50 or so of your friends, I was really excited and wanted to be here. I think that with so many smart people on this call that are equally concerned about emotional intelligence and how to use that sense of empathy to go forward. I look forward to co-creating that way forward with all of these bright minds.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So interestingly enough, we've already received some questions even before the session. So thank you so much to all of you that sent us questions. And one that I thought was very interesting was we received a question about, or, you know, I shouldn't say a question, but rather a comment around uncertainty. So when we look at, you know, how 2020 has been a challenging year and what people have gone through, one of the words that come to mind is uncertainty, right? So, you know, we had a lot of things that were unexpected. And, you know, for those of us that, or for the people that are used to like being, you know, able to always prepare and plan in advance for what's coming, then these things that, you know, kind of having to work from home, and some of the things that were unexpected, that uncertainty, right? And, you know, combined with that uncertainty, I think that, you know, in the how diverse we are and how people are different, some people are more equipped and more comfortable with dealing with uncertainty, right? They can navigate through uncertainty very easily. Then for some other people, it is more difficult to deal with uncertainty, right? And part of it is because there's the fear of the unknown, right? Of the unexpected. So if I don't know what's to come, I'm going to be I'm going to be fearful. I'm going to be nervous because I don't know what's coming. So I love to address that, and you know, we love to hear from comments from either the panel or anyone on the call today. Since we have people from so many parts of the world today that have different cultures, different way to, you know, deal with the different things of life, let's start this conversation with the topic of uncertainty. How do you deal with uncertainty? Is uncertainty a good thing, a bad thing? You know, what are any tricks or tips that anyone could share in terms of dealing with uncertainty? Who would like to share any thoughts on uncertainty for this topic that has been sent by one of the participants on the call today?
I'll take a stab at that. I think it's, you know, when I think of uncertainty, 10 years ago, I thought of digital Darwinism as the thing that created uncertainty. Technology was advancing faster than people and businesses could keep up. That creates uncertainty. Today, it's a term called VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity. I think for me, it's acknowledging that it's out there. It's like a tornado swirling outside the window. When I acknowledge that it's there, I know I've got to defend and protect myself against that. It's kind of have to have an awareness of it. When you live in California, you know the earthquakes are going to come. You learn how to duck and get into a structure that's going to secure you during that earthquake. The volatility in the markets, the volatility and chaos in our lives is not different than an earthquake or a tornado. When we acknowledge it, then we know how to deal with it. And so I guess acceptance is for me, the fact that it's there, the best way forward.
I like it. Acceptance. And I think that you bring up a great topic there that we're going to be touching through the call today. But I love that about acceptance. I think we can apply in multiple conversations today. All right. Who else would like to say something about uncertainty? How do we deal with uncertainty?
Tarja.
Oh, Tarja, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tarja.
I agree with Arthur, because what I was thinking about the compassionate way of dealing with things, accepting things as they are, being there, accepting your emotion of being vulnerable, being uncertain, being not aware of what's going to happen, and just being there and accepting it and kind of like looking forward and trusting your own emotion. This is the painful experience for me because I don't know what's going to happen. And being with that, it gives you the space to move forward.
So, all right, accepting and feeling comfortable, like knowing, all right, I know that it won't be, you know, I will not know everything, but, you know, kind of being accepting of that. All right, I like that. Okay, so one of the things, any other thoughts on uncertainty or acceptance? Anybody else would like to? Okay.
I can add just one more thing about uncertainty, because it is something I learned during the pandemic. When I moved to the US, this happened, and I used to travel a lot, and I had family, business connections outside the US, and I couldn't do that. So I had to adapt. I had to innovate my ways of doing things. And this led me to build up new skills, new ways of thinking. So I went with the flow. And at the same time, I kept asking myself, do I have to believe what I'm thinking about? Is it really impossible to do things and live life during this pandemic? So I had that critical thinking going on with me and that self-talk that I tried to direct to a positive side. So that was one of the most relevant experiences I had during this pandemic.
Thank you, Nabil. And I love that you're talking about something that I like a lot, the whole thing about positivity versus negativity, right? And self-talk, how we are thinking our thoughts and then what we're saying to each other. So one of the things that I love that I've seen before is that never say to yourself something that you wouldn't say to someone you love, right? So we have to love ourselves. So if we don't say something, you know, if there is something that we'd never say to someone that we love, if we are someone that we love, and we should all love ourselves, then let's never say something, you know, negative to ourselves. So I like that. So let's talk about positivity and negativity. I know one of the differences in different people is that when you are faced with uncertainty, you tend to go towards like negativity. Oh my gosh, like I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to, right? And then some other people that are more maybe optimistic. And I think that, you know, respecting people cultures and religions on the call today, I think part of it too is that our connection with faith, right? And trust, and how we feel, you know, hope, faith, trust allows us to be more optimistic and really believe that there will be, you know, kind of something better will be happening. So positivity. I myself, I'm a very positive guy. I try to self-motivate by having positive talk to myself. So I love to talk about that in terms of positivity and negativity. So any thoughts and comments about how we can keep ourselves positive? How do we keep positivity in our minds and our hearts? Would like to say something about that.
I'd like to build on what Nabil said. Is excuse me. I think Nabil said adapt. And, you know, when I think of VUCA, the volatility, uncertainty, or digital Darwinism, it's all about adapting. And it wasn't just saying adapt, that's the human condition. We always do that. If we were in the savannah 5,000 years ago hunting, right, and we saw a tribe on the other side of the bush that was our rival, we adapt to that situation and we innovate our way to safety. And I think here we are in 2021, a very modern world that we live in, but our instincts to adapt and innovate are still very much alive within us. And we just have to harness those powers, if you will, because they are superpowers in a way that we possess to, in light of the pandemic or civil unrest or political turmoil, it's about learning to adapt and innovate to create a new space for ourselves.
Great. And some great innovations have happened during tough times, right? And hard times. So, and if anybody on the call has any examples of something good that has happened to you, you know, in the past year or so as a result of, you know, kind of in dealing with the pandemic, if it was something new to happen to you personally or professionally, if you came up with a new idea or a new way to do something at any time, anyone on the call can go ahead and participate. You know, you can talk here, activate your camera and your microphone and share your ideas with us. So I like that idea of adapting. Any other thoughts or comments on adapting? Anybody who's having a hard time, or let me ask everyone here in the room today, you know, how are you guys doing with the times right now? Are you adapting, or are you struggling, or are you adapting? How is it feeling right now? Anyone?
Can I say a few words?
Yeah,
well, I wouldn't be studying in the compassion cultivation training program if we wouldn't have the pandemic, because it's for the first time it's online, and also the applied compassion training. But I think it's important that we recognize that we have this negative bias. It's in our genes. The first thing to think is the threat, and accepting that and seeing that and going through it in your mind and changing your way of thinking is the key, I think. to change the bias and recognizing it's, yeah, this is the way it is. And if you try to, you know, push the pain away or push your emotions, yeah, the negative emotions also away, then it's, yeah, I think it's going to cause more problems. Accepting things and accepting pain is the key to move forward also. And that's the positive side of it, you know.
Thank you, Tarja. And we can talk about that. I mean, that's very interesting how, you know, in this case, negativity, or, you know, when we are worried about what's out there, is actually, you know, a survival mode that our brain, and I know there are multiple experts here on the call on the brain, but definitely a process in our brain that to protect us, you know, right, is like Tarja was saying, the default is to think negatively just as a way to be protective, right? If we go back to the cave, how we were protecting ourselves from the, you know, from the animals and the beasts, is that we had to be very, you know, fearful and afraid. But, you know, sometimes obviously the way that our brain is, you know, something that our brain is doing for us is not necessarily something that is going to be positive. So in this case, you know, we have to accept that the default mode is negativity. Most of our thoughts, I've read too, that most of our thoughts are negative, but actually we can then, you know, with self-regulation, so with the components of emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and then self-regulation, is how do we regulate ourselves to go from negative to positive. So if anyone on the call today has any ideas or thoughts on how to change thoughts from negative to positive, please, you know, let's do that. And I know, and I know there are musicians on the call as well today. So I know that music is a very powerful, you know, it's a very powerful medicine. Or so I recommend to all of you, obviously, that if you are, you know, if your brain is coming at you with some negative thoughts, the one way that you can, you know, control those and kind of bring those down a little bit is through music. I myself like to listen to classical music, and there's some classical music that can definitely calm me down if I am a little stressed about something. So are there any other thoughts or techniques or tips that anyone else, either the panelists or anyone in the call, does to, you know, to go about your brain making you have negative thoughts to protect yourself?
Luis, this is...
Sorry, go ahead.
I apologize. Hi, Luis, it's Darcy. How are you?
Good. Where are you calling us from, Darcy? I know, but so that others know.
Oh, I'm from Minneapolis. Everyone, nice to meet you all. Thank you, panelists. This has been a great discussion so far. And I have to agree, you know, dealing with this uncertainty, dealing with this VUCA, that's a great new term in my vocabulary. It's been hard. Last year, I broke 2 bones. And what I had to learn in doing that is that I needed to ask for help. And it goes back to that sense of community, reaching out to others, to involve people so that you aren't alone, so that you have, you know, some ways of getting assistance. And my mom was great, you know, others in my family really helped me out, and it was hard during the pandemic to get to doctor's appointments and so on. But I really want to emphasize that even if you haven't broken a bone, it's okay to reach out, to be the first person to say, hey, I just want to talk. And I would suggest for those that are maybe feeling that way to think about it.
Thank you, Darcy. Powerful, powerful thought, to be okay with asking for and getting help, right? Sometimes, and something that I really appreciate the comment, Darcy, because in the interactions with other people in social skills, sometimes some people would say, oh, you know, I'm a great person because I like to give. I never take anything from anyone. I never take. I always give, and I never take. And the thinking is that a person that always gives but never takes is a great person. Wow, you're so generous because you never take anything from anyone. But actually, I love to put out this thought that in the, you know, in the process of interacting with others to build effective relationship, it is good not only to give, but also to take, to receive. And it's just changing the concept of taking. Taking is not grabbing something that wasn't there for you and you're like taking it, but it's actually receiving something that someone is giving to you. So for example, I can tell you that from a cultural standpoint, in some cultures like the culture in Latin America, the relationships are built by actually sharing something. So for us to keep moving in a, you know, in a stronger and you know, more profound relationship, in a stronger and deeper relationship, everyone, both people, both parties in the relationship have to both give and receive, right? So in this case, in this context, it will be help, right? If I offer you help, it's okay to take it. And actually, so a good friend of mine, Polish friend that lives in the Netherlands, has worked with this concept that one of the gifts that we can give other people is to allow them to give to us, because giving produces such positive, emotions, and it's such a good thing for people to give, that you can't be the one that is always giving, so you're the only one giving. So one of the things that you can give other people as a gift is giving them the gift of letting them give to you. So then you have to receive so that they can also benefit from giving, right? So it's very powerful. Thank you, Darcy. Who else?
Louis, this is Brett. Can I build on Darcy's comment?
Absolutely.
So I think, certainty breeds a little bit of feeling like we're always in control, and uncertainty opens up the world to the opportunity of help and reaching out and teamwork, right? And Simon Sinek had a podcast I listened to this morning with a gentleman by the name of Quillen Blackwell, and he had a couple quotes in there that resonate with this conversation, but just everything going on in general. And his one quote was, "Life is not a solo sport." And the second follow-up quote to that is that faith, beyond your religious beliefs, faith is realizing and understanding that you don't always know who's on your team until they show up. And I thought that in this time and period, that's so true, right? We can't socially get together, but yet people are reaching out in networks like this. And who would have thought that this group would get together and realize that we're part of a team that's helping our lives? So I think that reaching out and asking for help is, and that the part that I'm going to take away is life is not a solo sport. Is so, for those of us that have maybe larger egos, that's an important thing to realize and to remember and to actually live life as.
Thank you, Brett. Very powerful. I like that. Life is not a solo sport. Absolutely. Who else wants to either build on that or take us into any new thoughts?
Luis, there's an interesting comment on the chat box. I think she's Lama Jafari, and she mentioned the power of mindfulness and in rewiring our thoughts. And I can relate to that, because mindfulness would give us, the full control of our emotions. So like Arthur said, we adapted even in the past, but there is something that we really didn't innovate as humans. For example, how we perceive danger, how we look at the positive side of situations. For example, we react to situations the same way our ancestors would react to a lion attack 3,000 years ago. So we can read a bad email or see a bad comment on Facebook, and here you go, our fight or flight is triggered. So thanks, Lana. It is powerful, and I love the idea of using mindfulness to keep control of our triggers, our emotions, and see clearly where the optimism and where the pessimism is. And last thing, there's an interesting video that my kids created about the pandemic and how to stay positive. If it's okay with you, I'd love to share the link with the people here. I love the idea, and my wife and I created a blog around that.
How long is the video, Nabil?
It's a short video. I can send a link, and everyone can see it whenever they have time, even after this session.
No, I'm saying it because if it's only, a couple minutes or so, we can go ahead and play it here. So, if you...
Yeah, that would be amazing. I can put a link, and you decide what you want to do with it.
Yeah, it's all about like how long it is. If it, I don't know, 3 minutes or so, or,
Let me check. It shouldn't be more than 2-3 minutes.
Okay, excellent. So check it out, and then we'll see if we can play. This was not prepared, so I apologize in advance if the volume or something doesn't work. But I love to say hello to Lama. Lama, thank you so much for those powerful comments. Lama, I know Lama personally. We met back in Caracas, and Lama is one of those folks that have lived in different parts of the world and knows many languages. So it's a fascinating person that has a very advanced knowledge of emotional intelligence. Thank you, Lama, for joining us today. She talks about the power of friendship. So I think that's, even from a cultural standpoint, I think that friendships are different or understood differently in different parts of the world. But I'll say that for everyone on the call today here, we're all friends, and folks are pasting their LinkedIn profiles on the chat box. So if you're not shy and you're willing to make connections with other people from other parts of the world, go ahead and click on those links for LinkedIn profiles and connect. And for those that are not on LinkedIn, first is I invite you to consider opening an account on LinkedIn. And then, if you want to connect on other platforms, many of us here are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, multiple platforms. So the power of friendship. Who wants to say something about the power of friendship?
I still want to add on something what Nabil was saying and what Lama was also saying, mindfulness and meditation in general. Meditation is a way to, make use of your parasympathetic nervous system and calm the sympathetic nervous system, the fight and fly system down. So it's a powerful way. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, meditation, mindfulness. And I think that mindfulness also, one of the things is that from a personality standpoint, I'm a high energy guy, and I'm always, going very fast. And I know multiple of you on the call, and you're also like me, that we're very fast and very high energy. But what I like about mindfulness is it gives us that opportunity to, with intentionality, pause, right? So pause our world as we're going fast, driving so fast, we have to stop to put gas, right? So stop. And then when someone really is, talking with us, that we pause our fast world to really get, not only to listen, we all know about the power of active listening, right? Where we're paying attention to what people are saying. But I think that we go one level also, higher into that is not only to listen with attention, but also to get interested in what the person is saying. So for example, when people come to us and they tell us about something that they like, right? Somebody comes and says, hey, have you watched or have you heard the song blah, blah, blah by so-and-so? So what our brain sometimes will do is, because whatever that person is saying to us is something that we don't know. Now, it's taking us into new territory, so that we're uncomfortable. So what we will do is we'll go to what we know. So we will say, maybe Darcy comes to me and says, hey, Luis, have you heard the song, the Bluebird by, Jackson, Johnson? It's like, no, but what I like is I actually listen to Billy Joel and I start talking about what I like. But actually, in this case, one of the opportunities that we get with mindfulness is that I can put my world in pause. And with the power of mindfulness and empathy, I can actually listen with attention. So Darcy is telling me about a song that she likes, and I can go ahead and say, oh, no, I've never heard that song. What is that song about? So tell me again, what is the name? Let's look for it. And, I'm going to go ahead and listen to the song. And I should actually make the time to listen to the song and then get back to her and say, hey, Darcy, thank you so much. The power of gratefulness, thanking people. And thank you so much for offering that song. I actually took the time, I listened to the song. And one of the things that I liked about it was this, and that. So in this case, mindfulness is allowing us to stop our world, and then empathy is allowing us to get interested in somebody else's something. The generosity allows us to take the time and, expose ourselves to that new material that we're being presented with. And then through gratitude, we can go back to that person and relate to, the concept of thanking the person for that new information, but then also kind of going deeper by talking about what was in that content, so that, a stronger relationship can be built. More thoughts, comments?
I know there's a quote that I don't know who to attribute it to, but it says, where the mind goes, the person follows. And I mean, that's what mindfulness is all about. It's quieting all that chatter down, or maybe even listening to the chatter to be discriminating about what's happening there. So you can find your way through it, find that there's peace in the solitude of mindfulness, I guess.
Yes, where the mind goes. I like that. So the person follows the mind. I like it.
Well, and okay. I want to go back to what Brett said, because I think Brett, I think he said it was Simon Sinek that in a post this morning said that life is not a solo sport. And, you know, earlier we were talking about, you know, VUCA and digital Darwinism and how the survival instinct that's primal is inherent in us, it's in our DNA. And I think so is the tribe. You know, we're all tribal. It's just how we are. That's the human condition. And so when we say life is not a solo sport, it's acknowledging the fact that there's a togetherness that we need. We need to be, although we're socially distanced all over the world because of the pandemic, here we are gathered together in these squares, but we're together. And because we need this kind of community. And I think that that's important for us to have. And if there's one thing that the pandemic, I think, has made many of us aware of, is that whether we're in person meeting at Starbucks or having dinner at your favorite steak and garlic mashed potatoes joint, we need that connection, that human connection that we only get from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about human connection. So what are ways in which people can connect in a more human way? And I like, so Nadish is writing a comment here on the chat box that says, I have found that gratitude also helps a lot. Focus on what you have and what is there. So Nadish, do you want to share more about that? Want to share your thoughts there, Nadish?
Yes, you know, I found that, yes, all over last year in this time of uncertainty, not knowing what is going to happen and what direction your life will go into, being grateful for what you have, for what is working, for the people you have around you, the love around you, you give and you receive. So all the positive things that you already have that are there have really been a great help, like anchors into that life of uncertainty. So, and I think that's also a good combination with mindfulness, with meditation, and all this kind of approach.
Perfect, thank you. And in gratitude, very important, right? That we first go through the exercise of valuing the things that we have. And then I think that when gratitude, we think about feeling the gratitude, right? So we ourselves in our own minds and in our heart, we feel the gratitude. And then step number 2 is to express the gratitude so that other people know that we are feeling the gratitude, right? Because we may feel gratitude, but other people don't know we're feeling gratitude because they cannot read our minds. So we start with feeling the gratitude, we move forward to expressing the gratitude, and then you can actually follow up with intentionality where the gratitude can take the form of action, right? So then in this case, wow, I am very thankful for, you know, your friendship and this and that. And I really appreciate it. And I would like to, let's go ahead and on Friday we can do this, or can we, but it's like an invitation to do something, follow up with action. And I know right now with the pandemic, we cannot, like go out and do stuff together, but it's an idea of how do you express your gratitude through something physical, through an action. Okay, good. What are the thoughts? We have some good chatter here on the chat box. Some nice comments. Who else wants to share something?
I think Lama just keeps dropping the gem. She says, happiness does not bring you gratitude. Gratitude brings you happiness.
I love that.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Perfect. I recently read Pray. Pray not because you need something, but because you have a lot. Thank God for, again, gratitude. I'm gonna share a story again. So anyone can share at any time. Feel free. Not only the panelists, but anyone can say whatever is in your mind and in your heart right now. As long as it's legal and respectful and not offensive, you can say anything you want. But I love to share a story here quick. So we were on a call like this some time ago. Well, so one day somebody called me, a person that I know personally and that I respect and admire, contact me one day and said, Luis, I'm going to give you a Zoom link and I want you to join. This is a special group. I want you to be part of it. I was like, wow. And it's tonight. And it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. Send it to me and I'll join. right? And so I joined this meeting where I don't know anyone, I don't have any context to what it is or anything like that, but there are, just like now, a lot of wonderful people talking, and they are just, very smart, highly educated, talented people sharing very powerful thoughts. So I'm like, very fascinated with the call. But the call, it's a lot of insights and learnings, and it felt very special. But at the end of the call, something that was unusual for me happened. That the call, this was a regular call that happened, with certain regularity, right? And at the end of the call, the leader of the call prays. So it's like, whoa, I've never been in a business call where people pray, but let's go with the flow, right? Let's go with it. And the person had this, powerful word for everyone on the call. And, anyone who had shared anything that they were working on was, incorporated into the pray, where the person was hoping that everything happened, for everyone that wanted something. And I felt, wow. So at the end of the call, I was like, this call was amazing. I really love the insights, the thoughts and everything of teaching and learning. The pray was really powerful. Like, I'm not necessarily religious, but I really enjoy that. So I started to keep going to this meeting, and I realized that I really was looking forward to that end of the call for the pray, because it was being good to me and my body. Like, it really, it felt great for this prayer, right? So on a different call, we are on a call like this, and someone says that was struggling with the fact that the person has lost a child. And, although the person didn't share any of the details, I think the person, the child may have taken their lives, right? And so it was very sad. The person was like really going through a tough time. And I was like, okay, what do I do? I don't know. And I see that in the list of the participants is the person who leads the other call. And the person who does the prayer. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and do something different here. And I said to the person who has lost a child, I say, hey, I have my friend here who, is very good at the word and can offer a prayer. I'm going to apologize in advance, in respect to all of your religions, because we have people from all over the world. But I love to ask if a prayer can be done. Is that okay? The person said yes. And we went, and this person has had this amazing, beautiful prayer that, oh my gosh, like so touching and warming and inspiring. And I said to myself, well, I know that every time I have these calls, at the end of a call, people send me emails with feedback and comments and what they like and what they didn't like. I'm going to get emails that people say, you are crazy. How can you have a prayer? This was a business call, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I'll just apologize respectfully to everyone and say that was what I felt in my heart to do at the moment. I apologize, but let's keep moving forward. And at the end of a call, I did get emails where people were writing to me, but they were not writing to apologize. I mean, they were not writing to complain about the prayer, but the opposite. I got emails where people were thanking for doing the prayer because of how powerful and, and how heartwarming it had been, and how, timely it was, because in these times when we talked about friendship and about connection and about being, a community together, that we can have the empathy to feel the pain of somebody else and have the compassion, and then follow up with the beautiful words of a prayer that connected us all. So that was an interesting experience that was actually very encouraging to me, because there were multiple business people on the call, just like yourselves. And it was very inspiring to me to see that people were really open-minded, and they had their open heart to receive a prayer to support someone that was struggling, that was in pain. So wanted to share that story with you. And, I open up the floor for any comments or thoughts. If you want to comment on that story, or if you want to move to a different story, we can do that too.
Can I comment on the story with reading a quick poem from Maya Angelou? Because she says, we delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty.
Love it.
And I think the changes that people go through, whether it's losing a child or losing a job or having a loved one that's suffering with COVID, it's the beauty of the life that we live that we have to have gratitude for, because we're not promised the next moment. Just be grateful and I guess prayerful, as your story so artfully suggested. We all appreciate that deep thinking and that deep feeling we get from prayer. Is like meditation, right? So
I like that. So we were talking about meditation and mindfulness. So, for people that may be, afraid of like the word prayer, is to think more of that. For people that are less into praying, is to think about that more like it's just mindfulness, right?
It brings another idea that I learned in the, narrative storytelling in my business is a big part of what I do. And it's just like one of those primal things. We're all wired for story. We think, we dream, we problem solve in story. That's the thing that really drove me to look at different life experiences where the commonality in humans, and it led me to some scientific studies that people studied choirs, and when people sing in a choir, after a while, their hearts begin to beat in unison. That's amazing to me. And here we are in this group, we're all thinking about gratitude and hope and acceptance. Eventually, after a while, we'll all be with synchronicity happens, because we're all thinking and feeling. And that's why I like traveling around the world and going to the great cathedrals and places of worship, just to go inside and be there when everyone is thinking and doing the same thing, because I know that's the human condition. That's how we're wired. That's how the tribe supports other people in the tribe, by bringing that togetherness. And prayer, like the choir, is a way to achieve that common bond that humans need so much.
Reaching the same rhythm. I like that, having our hearts beat at the same time. We have some comments here on the chat. Alicia Nostroza says, sometimes being sad is what you need, so you can release that feeling and then open space for other feelings. I love that. Thank you, Alicia from Milan, Italy. Let's see other comments. We have multiple comments. I won't be able to read them all, but I'd love to read a few. And if anybody who wrote the comments would like to expand and say more on audio and video, please do that. But Terry Gibbs says, I love everything you have all shared. It reflects the holistic lifestyle I feel is so important in my life, including adequate sleep, daily meditation, prayer, and gratitude practice, eating healthy, organic, vegan, in my case, daily exercise, yoga, biking, cross-country skiing, playing with my dog and kids, connecting with family and friends, meaningful work on sustainability, a spiritual practice, Jewish renewal for me, and a Sabbath in which I do no work. The idea of a Sabbath, a complete break from work with the freedom to just be and connect with myself, friends, family, dog, nature, and God, is the addition I would add to this discussion. I love it. Terry, if you'd like to expand on that, if you want to, I mean, that's a great thought. Anything else you'd like to say?
There's a,
sure.
Terry, there you go.
No, I'm sorry, Arthur, what you're going to say.
No, please, Terry, expand on that wonderful idea.
Yeah, well, I used to work 24/7, and then one of the big teachings in Judaism, the most important thing that one can do is actually to observe a Sabbath, to actually stop. And I struggled with that because I'm an environmentalist. I need to save the world, and that's a full-time job. And but it finally hit me, and I was speaking at a conference, and I took a break, and there was somebody who had a book table out in the back, and I was being very smart alecky, and I said to her, "Hey, is there a book on this table that if I read this book, it would change my life? And it's got to be short." And she smiled and she said yes. And she picked up a book by Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel called The Sabbath. And Heschel was one of the Jews who marched with Martin Luther King and had bricks thrown at him, and said he was praying with his feet. I sat and I read the book, The Sabbath, and literally my life changed. I realized that the Sabbath is God's greatest gift to us. So whether you believe in God or whatever your spiritual path is, the idea of taking a break and stopping and not working seemed like one of the hardest things I'd ever done. The hardest thing I ever did was to meditate. After 2 minutes, I thought I was going to die. I began hyperventilating. But the second hardest thing was to stop and to have the Sabbath. And now it's like the best gift in my life. I realize that it's what allows me to get renewed and restored. And so it's been a huge, huge gift. And maybe just one last thing I would say is that there's a great story about how there was a big lumberjack and a woman, and they were going to have a contest to see who could chop the most wood in 8 hours. So they separated them. They had a barrier between the two of them, and they began. And this guy is so strong, the lumberjack, he just keeps chopping wood for 8 hours straight, never stops. And then the woman stops every hour. And after 8 hours, they look to see who's chopped the most wood, and it's the woman. And this big lumberjack guy says, that's just not possible. You stopped every hour. So how is it possible you could chop more wood? She said, simple, I sharpened my axe. And that's really what the Sabbath is. It's an opportunity to stop and to renew ourselves. And I think that's a huge gift. So thanks.
That's beautiful, Terry. That's really beautiful. I think Terry's a great storyteller. That's like the Kahneman book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And I think Einstein said the same thing, Terry. He said, if you've got a difficult problem to solve and only 6 hours to solve it, take 4 hours to think about the problem, and then you'll solve it. And I think Abraham Lincoln said, if you have to chop a tree down, take 4 hours to sharpen your axe, and then chop the tree down. So that thinking slow to do something really quickly, I think is brilliant. And this morning, as I was awake early for this call, I, of course, turned my iPad on and looked at the news of the day, and I saw a post from a filmmaker who is quite prolific and always working, always doing amazing work. And I'm fond of the work that he does. But this morning, he posted a long treatise, I guess, on his life. And it was not different than what Terry was talking about. COVID has made him have to slow down because he can't be out on sets shooting films. And at first he was lamenting the fact that, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? My type A life is destroyed. And it wasn't so much about the money, because he had plenty of money, but it was the activity in his life he was missing. But COVID made him slow down. And all of a sudden he realized that now he had a chance to spend more time with his family. He could actually go walk along the shore and enjoy the sound of the ocean. He could walk along the forest and the hillside and enjoy the quiet, in forest bathing. And he said, it changed my life. So it goes back to the question that Luis asked at the beginning of this morning's session. What has this pandemic done to change your life? Terry gives a great example. It might not have been COVID, but it was the 10-foot draped table at the back of a conference where he asked a smart question and got a smarter book. And the filmmaker that was missing his aggressive moving forward in his profession defined his life, and he found more joy in just becoming more of who he really was, as opposed to just only being a prolific filmmaker.
Thank you. We're getting a lot of comments here in the chat. So multiple interesting topics. And one that has been brought up is kindness. I think, Tarja, I think with compassion and kindness, you want to share some thoughts. I like what you say here. Be kind to yourself. Very important. You want to tell us about that, Tarja? You're on mute. Tarja, you're on mute.
See, I was kind to myself and I'm muting myself. So, but the key is, I think, because oftentimes we are the hardest to ourselves. We are very critical and self-judgmental, and we expect things to go in a certain way. And when they don't, we judge ourselves. So just being there and being self-compassionate is so important also, because all these emotions that are running, we are all in a life that is now in a way uncertain. And realizing that and being, non-judgmental to yourself is very, very important. and being kind and cultivating that attitude of, yeah, I don't know everything what's going to happen, and nobody knows everything what's going to happen, and we are in this crisis together. So yeah, I think it's really, really extremely important.
Thank you, Tarja. You know that a lot of people, I've come to learn that a lot of folks are struggling with something like with forgiveness, right? That something has happened, either they have done something that they feel guilty about, or someone has done something to them, and they're just kind of carrying this pain, for many years, probably sometimes for the rest of their lives for some folks. And I think that, when we think of kindness and compassion and forgiveness, right, forgive to be able to advance and move forward. I love to, kind of bring that topic here. So Tarja, if you want to share some thoughts on how you can leverage compassion to help with the process of forgiveness. And then for anybody else in the call after Tarja that would like to share any thoughts, comments, experiences around the topic of forgiveness.
Yeah, I think that cultivating that forgiveness starts with yourself, because most of the times when we have all made mistakes, we have all done things that we have regrets, and there's nothing we can do to change them, but we can change the way we think about them, and that's the way we can move forward. Take the lesson and cultivate the attitude of kindness to yourself. I made that decision at that moment with all the knowledge I had. And all the information I had at that moment, I couldn't have done anything else. So that brings us the compassionate part to ourselves, like giving ourselves the freedom to choose differently in the future, but also accepting things as they were in the past and learning from them.
Thank you. Accepting the past. Very good. That's been a powerful theme today, accepting, right? I like that idea of the power of the freedom to choose better, make better decisions in the future. Nabil, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can just build on what Tarja said. You can't be empathetic if you don't have a self-compassion skill. So you have to love yourself in order to love others. And I think it's really important to start focusing on that. So the open-ended question I'd love to ask everybody, and then we can discuss about it. And I found it critical in emotional intelligence. I'm a Daniel Goleman certified coach, and I read different books, and I learned a lot about EI from different schools. But the thing is, how can we make it actionable? How can we implement it in our life? So it's great to be, everybody wants to love themselves, and everyone wants to, to show and improve empathy. But how can we do that? For example, Terry, told us his story about, new religion. We talked about mindfulness. There's also some micro techniques that are, let's say, science-based. For example, well-wishing technique, breath technique, that could help us focus on our emotions, recognize our emotions. We don't have to talk about them every time, because self-awareness is just knowing that we have certain emotions. We don't have to suppress them. We have to deal with them so we can move on with our life. For example, you have you're on your way to a meeting room and you receive an unpleasant call and you get upset about that. So self-awareness, or managing your emotions, or self-compassion, or empathy, or mindfulness would lead you to know that you have received a call that's bothering you, and you have to deal with it before you go to that meeting. Otherwise, you may deflect those emotions on others, or you may impact the overall success or outcome of that meeting. So these are the great techniques that I invite everybody to share, because I'm sure everyone has an experience about that. How can we be self-compassionate? How can we improve and cultivate empathy? So technical things that we can do every day in order to improve our life.
And I have been on that point very quickly, Nabil, and thank you for the invitation again. And everyone on the call is invited to go ahead and share your thoughts. So while you're thinking, getting ready to share your thoughts, I want to share, Nabil, that I have been in multiple meetings where someone has said, Right now, I don't feel good, so I'm going through something difficult and I can't, I'm going to, I can't be on this call or something like that. And so think about in the past. So what we have been trained is to avoid difficult things, to avoid difficult conversations, to avoid dealing with the feelings and with the emotion, right? So a lot of times in corporate America, it's like more the leaders are those that can be, kind of very stoic and not really get into these, if there's polemic themes, like religion or politics, you stay away from that and you just kind of focus on business. It's just business, right? And I think that we're coming to a time where we are providing to allow people to really, it's like, no, we have to engage in this conversation. This is important. We need to, if we disagree on something, let's learn the skills to sit at the table and exchange our perspective and thoughts. And you think about this situation in that way. I think about the situation in this way. We're going to sit down and I'm going to share with you my thoughts. You're going to share yours with me. I don't have to change your mind. You don't have to change my mind. We're just giving each other the gift of perspective, which is a very powerful gift. So I love that. I appreciate it. So I think that we're coming to a time where we are realizing that there's this difficult thing that is feelings and emotion that before we were, especially, and there's a gender difference. I think for men, we as boys were trained that men are not to express any feelings, right, or emotions. So like the male leaders are, leaders that are stoic. And then, we thought that women in general kind of had a little bit more liberty and quote unquote, because not really, to share some of their emotions. But I think we're getting to a time where it's recognizing that we all have emotions and we need to be comfortable with them, learn about them and learn to express them. And then how do we, recognize other people's emotions and how we can, through the power of empathy, join in those emotions and connect in a better way, which is a more human way. I would love to hear from, we have, I know multiple folks on the call here that have very advanced knowledge of emotional intelligence. So this is your call. We're all friends. We're in family here. Feel free to go ahead and join in the conversation. Anyone would like to share story, thoughts, living experiences? Taking a pause. Nasneen?
Yes,
ahead.
yes. So when I think Nabil spoke about empathy, for me, I mean, when I look at COVID, let's say COVID, the beauty of COVID is, the one beauty I see is it is throughout the world. So it wasn't like it's happening one part of the world, so other part of the world really don't understand what it's about. So
And on that
we
note,
should acknowledge the
where are
fact.
you, Nasteen, sorry to interrupt you. On that note about the world, tell us where you are. And I know where you are, but so that everybody knows.
I'm in India. It's 8 o'clock here, 8 p.m. at night. So the point here, I mean, I'm listening to the whole conversation. I'm not saying in between. I wanted to just, bring some points. If we start with any uncertainty in the beginning. So I look at it, less uncertainty has some impossibilities, but at the same time, there are some possibilities. So I'm sure offline we couldn't connect, but online is like a huge world. And this uncertainty has opened up these kind of doors, which we never thought. I mean, I never think wouldn't have happened. Probably I was not here. Okay, I'm in India. There's no point connecting. That's how we used to perceive. I remember on LinkedIn, if you connect someone out of your country, that person will ask, why you want to connect? Anything purpose? Now that question is not asked. It is understood that networking is so important. So that importance has come. Now you were also talking about ways to keep ourselves positive. Now I come from musical background. Okay, I've learned 10 years Indian classical music, Sufism, ghazals, so completely into Indian light music, I'd say. So what keeps charged up? Yes, listening to the music. It's a choice we give to ourselves. So what you want to do when you wake up. So when I get up, I want to keep myself positive. I play something that will charge me up to have the rest of the day in the beautiful manner. But apart from that, I wrote it in the chat that passion is something most of the people have neglected all the time. So that kind of passion which we cannot connect it to career and growing monetarily, we cannot connect. So I think this is the time when people can focus on their passion, see where they are, and it can be made into career. I personally feel a passion, something into any kind of artistic thing, any kind of sculpture making, drawing, painting, and anything that can, bring life to the thought. And yes, sustainability, I would like to say, I read a lot on sustainability. So I think we should cover that part also. Maybe I'm drifting from the current topic, but we should focus on sustainability at a human value. This is the time we should focus on it, and let's see how it goes in future.
Love it. I love it. Passion. And something on that note, passion, like some in our training, sometimes people say that they are told that they're passionate, but not as a good thing. It's like as a bad thing. But I think that, again, it's a new time where being passionate is not a bad thing. Passion can be the engine and the motor, to get us to do new things and so that we can feel happy. And so it's okay to be passionate. I'm passionate myself. So, don't let others tell you that, because you're passionate. And sometimes I tell people tell me that they're being told, oh, you have too much, you have empathy, you're interested in other people. It's like, yeah, that's great. That's a superpower. It's a gift. So never be embarrassed to be passionate, never be embarrassed to have empathy and to love people and get interested in other people. Okay. Other thoughts, other stories. Who wants to share?
Just one thing, Luis. Nazneen, I'd love to know about your experience with Sufism and its relationship with what you've just said, like empathy, emotional intelligence. So maybe we can, I'd love to connect with you. And I'm really curious about this because it's really important, because I know that's a high level of spirituality, right? And I want to know what impact this had on your emotions and how and your behavior.
I want to join that conversation because I was thinking the same thing, Nabil. That's, 10 years of music, music is another language, right? And music is how we communicated even before we had language almost. And so there's power in that. And I'd like to know what Nazneen thinks about how during these troubling times of VUCA, how music has calmed the spirit to uplift the self.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is beautiful. At the beginning of the call, we talked about, being less interested in ourselves and being more interested in other people. So thank you, Nabil, for modeling the example of being interested in somebody else. Nabil was listening to with attention to what Nazneen was saying, and immediately follow up with a question that, show interest, and they're going to go ahead and follow up and connect from here and have conversations. So I invite all of you, obviously, to, and the folks on the call have high levels of emotional intelligence. So I know you're listening attentively and paying attention. Let's move forward and, from thought to intentionality, reach out to people on the call, make new connections, be interested in somebody else's something and learn about somebody else's world, right? So, okay, more stories. Who else wants to share? I know a lot of folks on the call and you're not particularly shy. So who else? Somebody that hasn't talked today. We'd love to hear from you. And then our panelists. Shahid, go ahead. Thank you. You're on mute right now. Perfect.
Is it okay now? Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
Brilliant. Now, this is one very simple story I just wanted to talk about. I'm blessed with two girls. And every on Christmas time, my girls always used to say, no one says thanks to this bin man who comes every day, Monday morning, and pick up our bins. So how do we say thanks to these guys? Because if someone gives something to us, we always say thank you. And someone says gift to us, we always say thank you. So last November, we sat down. I said, let's think something, how we are going to say thanks to them. So we created a list, not me, they created a list. They created the whole list, and we started with our postman, we started with our next retail shop, and we started with the bin man on Monday morning and on Tuesday morning. So we created this list. We thought, okay, this now we are not going to give any gift to all the friends and the relatives. We're going to give gifts to all these guys. So very much on the same day on a Christmas, we decided we pick up all these gifts, go to postman, give a gift to him and his family, go to the next retail shop, give a gift to his family. And the Monday morning when this bin man comes down to pick up all this stuff, and we give all the gifts to each one of the 5 of these guys. So that was something for me, somebody who's from India, but I've traveled the world, but in the past 22 years, I'm living in London. So it was, for me, it's a passing on a value to my kids. It's teaching them how to do things differently and let them do the things. So I think that was the one beautiful thing we did over the last Christmas this year, to share a kind of a thing. And thank you for doing all this work all these years. You guys come in the morning, pick up all of our rubbish and go home, and no one says thank you to you.
I love it. I love it. And it talks again back to gratitude, right?
Yeah.
Gratitude, generosity, and gifting. Beautiful story. Thank you. Thanks so much, Shahid.
Thank you.
Well, who would like to pick up on that, build on Shahid's story, tell us something else? Let's see, I'm going to do a quick check-in on time here. So it's, we're about 20 minutes to end the call today. So we've talked today about, we talked about empathy. We've talked about, being interested in other people, something. We talked about pausing. I think our friend Terry talked about stopping for a moment, taking a pause so that we can re-energize and recharge. I love that concept. We talked about being kind to ourselves, right? So a lot of great stories shared today. So we have about, between 20 and 15 minutes here. We'd love to hear any other stories so that our panelists can comment. Tarja, Nabil, and Art are ready to hear your story so they can, okay, John Altov. So John, you have to tell us where you are calling from and what time it is for you.
Luis, not too far away from you right now, probably about maybe 20 minutes. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA. So greetings, and it's so great to hear from, as far maybe Nazneen, maybe you're the furthest away, right? But I tell you, Nabil, when you talked about getting that bad phone call, that struck a chord with me, because we all have, right? And I'm kind of like most of the people on this call, we're, Terry Gibbs as an example, we're make it happen people, right? We're in the moment, and we're going to just react, right? And when you get that bad call, I mean, it does throw you for a loop, because you want to solve it. What do I need to do? And your mind, at least my mind, starts going right there. And something that I'm not very good at, but I'm trying to get better at, is breathing, right? So instead of how do I react, it's like measure my breath, right? And just take some time, take a breath, right? And think. And some of the best leaders that I've worked for were really good at that, right? They would take time, where I would kind of, let's do this. They'd say, let's take a minute and let's think about it. Let's talk about the different options, right? And I'm not so much like that, but that's the value of taking the breath. The other thing that I just heard on a program, this television show this week, was in the moment, if you need to ground to something, stop and look in the room that you're in and say, I see the blue wall. I see my black printer. I see my beautiful flowers in the corner. And they said verbalizing that basically grounds you to where you are and to your moment. And so I'm not an expert at any of those things, and would love to hear from those of you who are. But I think there's techniques, some people might call them tricks, that you can do to kind of ground yourself in the present, to slow yourself down, to instead of just immediately engaging. And that's a couple things that I've just learned this week that I'm working on, Luis.
Yes, I love that. Thoughts, okay, from the panelists. Any thoughts you want to add to John Alto, who's joining us from Minneapolis, Minnesota?
Thank you, John. I was thinking about the key is to create space between the trigger and the response. And one of the ways is to, comfort yourself, for example. You can place your hand in your heart and use the breathing technique. You can use, whatever is mindfulness. It's a space that is most, there is the freedom for our response. If we are able to create that space, then we have the freedom to choose our reaction. It's very, very important. And thank you for pointing that out. There is the freedom.
I love it.
And one thing that happens to us, John, it's a psychological process. So when you, for example, let's take the case of receiving an unpleasant call or having a bad conversation, but the day after you need to meet with a client or you have an important meeting. So what we do, we tend to suppress those feelings. And when we do that, it becomes more painful and it comes out in the future as a psychological complexity or a problem. So what we tend to do is that we try to be self-aware about our emotions. So we don't have to deal with them. We have to notice them, right? Not to avoid them and recognize their existence. They exist. It's okay to suppress them for the day because you have to deal with other stuff, but you need to go back to them. You need to deal with them and face them so you can move on to different things. Otherwise, they're going to come up unconsciously.
Yes. That's what I was saying earlier in the chat also, that you need to accept your emotions as they are and get back to them and feel them. The more we try to push them away, the more they, stay. I agree, Nabil. Thank you.
Sorry, Tarja. I was going to say that connecting to what you said earlier, Tarja, that I've seen it now in meetings where someone says, hey, I think, this is a difficult conversation. We're right now, feeling, we're a little emotional. Why don't we take a break and let's kind of table this conversation and we'll get back to it, later in the afternoon, or, we'll talk about this tomorrow. And actually then at the later time where people meet, then kind of is less of a problem because it was more like the emotions were like all hot and going in there. So sometimes taking time. And I've seen now also, so you have to think about who is a friend that someone that a loved one that is kind of a happy person, funny person, someone that really kind of makes your spirit, lift your spirit, and then have him on direct dial, or like fast dial, because sometimes like when you are really stuck in a negative feeling or something that where you're struggling and something is going on, just talking to someone, and you don't have to talk about what's happening, but just connecting with that person and talking with that person can actually help to re-energize you and get you in a better mood, which may help you to feel better or to think better about the situation that you're going through. And the last thing that I would say too, also in building relationship, diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of organizations that are saying, hey, yeah, we want to invest in these communities. We want to build relationship with these communities. And so when someone from, let's say people of color from a certain community, Latino, African-American, Asian, LGBTQ, and they applied for a job, then when the organization is not in a position to offer a job, then they're like either don't respond, ghost, or send an automatic computer message that cannot be replied to. It's like don't reply to this email because there will be no response, right? But the new times is like when someone applies to a job and you're not in a position to be able to offer a job, that doesn't mean that the person is going to hate you or anything like that, or this is a new time. So like you apply for a job, you don't get the job, and you can still engage in a relationship in a positive relationship where that's okay. I'm applying to a different job, I'm looking at opportunity. Maybe I'm not the person, but I know someone who is. And then so I know of cases of people that have shared with me that they apply for a position, the company sends an email back, automatic email that you can't respond, but or they'll find a name and say, hey, thank you so much for getting back to me and for the update. Disappointed that I didn't get the opportunity, but looking forward to staying. Let me know if I can ever help you with anything. No response, nothing back from the company. So then in this case, the organizations that are saying we're investing in these communities, we want to build a relationship, we really care about these communities. One way to show that is that when you are communicating with these applicants, the only way to connect with them is not by saying yes to a job application, but it's also to engage in, and sometimes even depending on resources, providing feedback. It's like, hey, your process was great, your application was great, we're not in a position to offer you a job right now, but we'd love to stay in touch, blah, 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 depending on possibilities there. But I think it's engaging, and we don't have to engage only with people that think the same as us. When someone shares with you a thought or a perspective that is different from yours, we can still think it because we don't have to agree with it. We have to think the fact that they are actually sharing that perspective with us, listening with attention and actually considering when my wife tells me something and it's completely the opposite of what I think, I actually pay attention to it very carefully, because I know that in a few days or weeks I have to go back and apologize, because then she's always right? So then I have to really consider it and put some thought to it. So all right, we're down now to just 10 minutes before the end of the call. I love to hear anybody else who hasn't shared thoughts, and then we'll go.
I'm going to put in, I'm Joel Hadra from St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm going to put in the tiniest little plug for systems change around all these issues. So I have had my own personal journey around workaholism, 28 years old, workaholic near nervous breakdown, another 40 years of every modality you can imagine. And I just want us to notice that there's something broken in the system if every advance in technology is only speeding up how long and how hard we work, instead of shortening the work week, letting us share the work, and letting everybody enjoy more family time, community time, nature time, personal development time. When I was coming up at age 18, 1969, there was a lot of talk about systems change. Now everything's about I'm working on myself to change the world. So I just want to say, most of you have gotten an invitation from me to link in that included a few words on systems change. Luis, I would love to see us. There's no conflict between working on ourselves and fixing the broken system. In fact, the better we're doing as individuals, the better we join community, the better we think outside the box about change, the better everything. And look, one last thing is, this is Black History Month in the United States. And one of the important quotes by Dr. Martin Luther King was, "The arc of the universe bends towards justice, but it doesn't bend itself." And so things have been moving historically in the right direction, but we've got sort of a last push to give it, to move into, instead of a money-centered economics and a money-centered world, a people and planet or human-centered world. And human-centered design is definitely one of the top new disciplines that could carry us in a new direction.
Here, Joel.
I really appreciate it. What a way to take us here to the closing. So we're going to go ahead, each one of the panelists, to do a closing round. I'll start with Tarja to share your closing comments, and we'll go to Nabil, and we'll end with Art Jones. And I really love to, I want to thank each one of you for making the time this morning to join us, and for all of the wonderful comments on audio, on video, and on the chat. And like I said, make sure that you connect, with other folks on the call. A lot of folks on the call here are very interesting people that are working on wonderful initiatives, including my friend Joel, who's always working on wonderful things. So make sure to connect with him. So Tarja, let's go ahead through the closing round for all of the panelists.
Well, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you, Luis, for arranging this. This is the way to create a interconnection between people. We are all interconnected, and this is a great way to see things through different lenses and feel happy to connect with me. I mostly use LinkedIn as a connection form, but it was great being here. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you, Tarja, and thank you for dedicating your life to compassion. It's a very, very important theme, so I really appreciate it. Nabil.
First thing I want to say, Shahid, the video is on the chat box. So I posted that a while ago. So my final words would be around, what Joel said, because it's really strong and it's powerful. So there is no way around that if we don't do it within education. So if we look at the US Common Core, British system, IP, PYP, IB, they all focus on STEM agendas: science, technology, engineering, math. We're not teaching emotional intelligence to our kids. So we wait till they grow up and then we fix the problem. So we have to start fixing it now in order to make that beautiful change in the future. So great conversation, and thanks, Luis, for making this happen.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Nabil. I really appreciate it. And I love absolutely the whole thing about systems that we have to change systems to be more human too. And then Art, go ahead and take us away here.
I'm just in awe of the conversation because in each one of these squares, there's just so much wisdom and so much, so many things to take away. I have a word cloud that I'll just kind of read really quickly. Collaboration, co-creation, compassion, hope, acceptance, adapt, innovate, create, new skills, design thinking, systems thinking. Life is not a solo sport. Sufism. I mean, I could go on, right? That's good stuff. And there's another one. And this is not what was said, but this is what I thought when I heard it. Seek first to understand, then be understood. And then to Tarja, I want to say thank you for the hack, something actionable that I can do when I have a trying moment. I typically do what I think John, or I forget who said it, maybe it was Terry, I forget, it was just breathing into it. But the new hack I have is I can place my hand over my heart when I take that breath to make space for the good stuff. So thank you all. Thank you, Luis, for hosting this event.
Thank you. Thank you, Art. So Art, I would love so I just posted on the chat box, I posted a link that takes to a post on LinkedIn. So if you can in the comments as a reply, put in the list of words of a word cloud that you said. And for everyone on the call today, on that link, you have the people who are on the call today are posted on that link. Go ahead and you can connect with anyone that you liked and wanted to follow up with, and then feel free to share any thoughts and comments about today's call there. Obviously, that's a public post, so anything that you post would be seen by anyone with access to LinkedIn. So, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. Good stuff, the bad stuff, if you like it, if you didn't like it, if you want more of this in the future, or if you don't want to see anything like this again in your life. But I want in these last couple of minutes, I want to thank every one of you who took the time, folks here in the Americas, took the time to wake up early to join us today. I hope that the thoughts and conversations today were thought starters as we are, trying to think differently and connect in a better way, engage in conversations, good conversations, bad conversations, difficult conversations, and get connected to our emotions and our feelings, understand ourselves better, and then have the empathy to get interested in other people's things, even when they are not directly connected to us, and even when they don't reflect our own reality. So thank you for wanting to be a better person. Thank you for wanting to connect with others. And again, I look forward to your feedback. Have a wonderful day today. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luis.
Thank you.
Well organized.
Eres maravilloso, Luis.
Thank you.
Abrazos.
Abrazos, maravilloso.
Ciao, Bella.
Ciao, Bella.
Hey guys, see you, everybody.
Thanks, Luis.